What's your one investment that got away?
Sipping a nice scotch on a Friday evening, and would like some schadenfreude-tinged entertainment.
What's your biggest investment regret?
Selling Bitcoin at $50? Amazon in 2001?
One rule. You must have actually owned the investment. No, almost bought, stories.
Top comment gets a prize. My husband made me sell my shares in Apple.
He wanted me to take the profit. I did because I was so tired of hearing him say this every day. I now tell him I am going to put that on his tombstone. Here lies my husband who made me sell my Apple stock. Woman facepalming. My surgeon friend bought $30,000 Apple in 1995, his first year of his career.
He retired from medicine at age 59 when Apple started paying him a dividend more than his stressful job.
This guy knows how to hold M. I told my dad in 1985, "You better find a way to buy stocks in Apple." He said I was just a kid and didn't know about stocks and such, even though I read the WSJ, when it was good, daily. I told my dad to buy Google when they had their IPO. I was probably 14 to 15 at the time. I didn't read the WSJ, but I was a huge nerd and had an intuition that they were going to grow and become massive. My dad, like many people, had gotten burned by the dot-com bubble. I forget his exact response. I think he said they don't make a profit. Well, Google required a minimum $1 million investment when they did their IPO, so unless your dad had that kind of liquidity, he couldn't have bought it anyway. I know, because I was in my 20s and had saved $20,000 for it. When I tried to buy in, I was literally laughed at. Really? I can't find any information on that. Either way, he certainly could have bought in after the IPO whenever it began to trade normally and certainly still would have done very well. Yup. Which is what I should have done with my $20,000. Instead, I was pissed off that they laughed at me, so I went and blew it all on partying. Probably a better investment, really. Removed. Your comment was automatically removed because you may be using an unnecessary large font. I am a bot, and this action was performed automatically. Please contact the moderators of this subreddit. Message compose to =r investing if you have any questions or concerns. YOLO. I bought one share when I was in my early 20s and it's done well. But haven't bought more, so it's a pretty minuscule part of my profile at this point. Makes sense. When they went public, I could not understand why the stock was languishing at till the $85. IIRC, they were making $1 billion profit per quarter on $3 billion in revenue. As I was broke, I was not a buyer of anything. No shit? I said the same. It was $100 a share. Also, remember Tesla's IPO? I believe they were around $27? Yeah, TBH, I was highly skeptical of EVE at the time and thought it'd be a flash in the pan. Whoops. I own every kind of classic car. Lesson learned. Never, ever listen to husbands. My wife must be a genius in investing and life because she never listens to me. She actually refuses to put her cash into an HYSA or T-bills, so maybe she knows that there is an unprecedented meltdown of the US banking system just around the corner. I've learned the hard way to never listen to my dad's advice. He said don't buy stocks in 401k, I didn't. Watched gains pass by me. He said okay, but bond funds for some safe gains. Bond ETFs crashed. I bought with one-half my 401k savings at ATH. Now he's changing the story and asking, why didn't you buy stocks? You're an idiot for not buying a market index fund from the start. You should have bought stocks. I'd like to add, I opened a day swing trading account without telling him. I got over 200% gains first year, 2020 admittedly. So far, I'm approximately at S&P growth, which is impressive considering I bet big on a loser and have way too much tea. Hey, dividends are sweet and it's too big to fail. The grounded fiber's not going anywhere. T-Mobile, etc. rents their fiber space. Sorry. You can tell I have some issues with his advice.
I will say, he's not trying to sabotage me.
He's just a bad trader. He sold AMD approximately at cost basis in 2020, after the crash already happened. In 2008, he sold all stocks to wait for the bottom, never went back in. Still down like 50% in his and my mom's accounts. Woman facepalming light skin tone. For those who may care, he just told me to sell my Apple shares. So, bye everyone.
Greater than in 2008, he sold all stocks to wait for the bottom, never went back in.
Still down like 50% in his and my mom's accounts. This is a common story in the US, unfortunately. Or wives or fathers or mothers. Trust in your own instincts or just sell a very small portion of the investment. You would rather win or lose on your own instincts than somebody else's. See, you and my wife have been taking classes together.
That's why I don't plan on having one.
This is precisely why my wife doesn't get to look at my portfolio nor dictate what I invest my retirement savings in. Our risk philosophy is very different. I completely understand that this comes with some potential disadvantages, which I accept.
I am in agreement with you.
I'm more buy and hold. My husband's emotions rise and fall like the stock market. Tears of joy. Honestly, it's too easy to have hindsight 20/20 on stuff like this. Anytime you take gains on a single stock and put it into an index, you are reducing risk and potential reward.
Unless you took that money and burned it in a worse single stock, I don't think there is anything really to be upset about.
There are so many paths in life you could have walked, you know?
Oh, it's a running joke between us. If you want to lose money, listen to my husband or my kids for stock tips.
Tears of joy.
Thanks for explaining.
I can stop being that weird kid that joins the conversation incorrectly because he doesn't get the joke, haha. No worries, your insight was part of the conversation and I appreciate it. Grin. I'm surprised he's not buried in the garden. Rolling on the floor laughing, rolling on the floor laughing, rolling on the floor laughing.
It takes mental and emotional strength to put a lot into a risky stock.
It takes just as much to stay in the position when it's already up 100%.
When?
Bought $15K of AMD at $4. Sold at $7. I think about it daily. Should have bought at 10 and sold at 13 over and over again. A lot of people made a lot of money on that trade, lol.
That's me. 1,600 shares at $10 N, sold at 16 N, never bought in again.
FML. Late 2008 during GFC.
Watched things crumble, had the courage, and bought $250,000 of SPY.
Market bounced and position was up 20% in 4 days. Sold, made $50,000, and paid ordinary income taxes. Market went lower and I was genius at 30 years old. If I held and didn't sell, that position would be $1.75 minus $2 today, at capital gains rates.
Not a genius move.
You were right for a period of time, smiley face. Which is usually the same when you buy, sell.
You never bought back in?
Not with that slice of capital. The world was ending. I bought rental real estate on the cheap. Remodeled and rented it, sold it for $400,000 in 2018.
Did buy the market with 401k funds and also founded and sold a business.
In any case, it would always be nice to have an extra $2.
Expensive lesson. Sounds like you figured it out though.
A win is a win. LMFAO, same but different prices. Check out my comment. I was about to buy it at $2. Thought I'd invest it in amorphous metals instead. Frick man. Oof. I bought at 11 and sold at 17, only had 100 shares, but today, sigh. I literally came here to post the exact same trade. Still gets me how early I sold. Can't believe that is my regret too. I bought about 200 share at $12 or 13 and sold a little under 13 after I read a blog that AMD's Razor SP chip was not that good. Stupid me. I also did something similar with Facebook, now known as Meta.
Interesting name you chose.
Same was in at 3. This August of 2013 on a beach vacation, was messing around and picked up 2,500 shares at 3.80-ish.
Sold it for peanuts. Bought at 8, sold at 52. Panic sold around Corona. Had 100 Bitcoin in 2010.
It was a little over $200 worth. I think I bought weed with it.
If true, that is brutal.
That's retirement today money. I think about it often.
But at that time, the only two types of people who even knew what it was were supercomputer nerds and people who were on Silk Road.
It wasn't seen as an investment. Greater than it wasn't seen as an investment. Like the Mickey Mantle rookie card that my dad stuck into the spokes of some other kid's bike. Not like the huge stacks of late 80s baseball cards I bought with my dad as a young kid, because they will be worth a lot someday, and are now literally worthless. Oof. I feel this with my early, mid-90s box collections and Frank Thomas rookie cards. Definitely got some of those Frank Thomas rookie cards. They were worth double-digit numbers of dollars for a little while. I have the Leaf and am surprised to see it going for upwards of $350, mint graded. I looked at a lot of my card values a few months ago, and my non-expert understanding is that the value of all of my most valuable cards when graded would be less than the cost of paying to have them graded. Good thing someone is making money. Yeah, I checked quickly and it's $25 USD to get one card graded by PSA. Most cards aren't worth near that anymore.
The Big Hurt.
He was one of my favorites. I was never a huge baseball fan. It was more of a collection thing. Peak bubble behavior from 8-year-old me. Ditto. I have so many of his cards and finally bagged the Leaf rookie as my grail when I was like 13. It was $80 at the time. I'm surprised to see that if I were to get it graded, it's been in a screw-together hardshell since I bought it. It may be worth a couple $100. I bought 100 for $100.
I don't blame myself. It crashed down to single digits like 8 times?
I would have sold at least once.
Just think, if you hadn't bought weed with it, you would have used it to buy a computer or whatever a year later instead. Don't beat yourself up. The chances you'd still be holding the original BTC investment today are probably pretty low.
No way in a million years I would have held it this long. The second the value doubled, I would have dumped it all anyway. Exactly.
This is true.
I remember going to the bank with my buddy and he would buy Bitcoin. But he was buying it strictly to deal on the dark web and had no intentions of keeping it. It was not seen as an investment at all. Yeah, back in those days nobody was talking hodl or get rich. The conversation was more about whether it would get hacked the following day or just break its scale.
BTC was and still is just a proof of concept for the technology.
Exactly. I remember being a junior in high school, and having my nerdy senior drug friend introduce me to Silk Road in Bitcoin around 2012.
How do you not get caught?
You use Tor to mask your IP and exchange your money for Bitcoin to keep the transaction private.
What is Bitcoin?
It's a cryptocurrency. And at that point I stopped asking questions because I had no clue what he was talking about. I also had no clue it was an investment. I thought it was just some kind of digital currency that you exchange dollars for to do transactions. I don't think many people knew it was an investment.
The one kid I know who held on to his coins sold them once they were worth like $4,500 altogether a few years later.
I don't think many people knew it was an investment. It never crossed my mind to look at its price on a chart. I was too busy trying to get high. And I was too young to put it together and wasn't the one making the transactions, haha. Supercomputer nerds knew. It's still early. Hope it was good weed at least. Removed. Your comment was automatically removed because it looks like you are trying to post about non-mainstream cryptocurrency. This type of content belongs in another subreddit. I am a bot, and this action was performed automatically. Please, contact the moderators of this subreddit. Message, compose, to =r, investing, if you have any questions or concerns. Same. I remember some dude coded up a Bitcoin casino as a Minecraft mod, and I distinctly remember gambling a whole Bitcoin on a hand of blackjack. I think they were worth about $12 each at the time. Dude smoked away a fortune. Bro, me too. I remember paying 1 BTC for an ounce of weed in 2012. These drugs dealers made out like bandits. Presumably most of them laundered it back to fiat. I was buying stuff online with BTC when it was like $400 minus 1,500. I didn't think much of the long-term potential of BTC, figured the government would try to shut it down or something. Probably spent a total of around 10 BTC. Doesn't bother me though. Even if I did buy it at the time, I probably would have sold it when it went to like $10,000 or something. I have kept an eye on it since then, and decided to go deep in it in the last bear market. And am up pretty significantly now. Same. I used it for VPN access and weed, and I might have bought something off eBay, but I spent it all. It hurts to think about. I squandered a fantastic relationship with a beautiful, kind and supportive woman who is still incredibly hot even 17 years after. Feels like spilling a beer in comparison. Lol. I bought a mouse from a friend for 20 BTC. We still joke about it. Did they keep the Bitcoin? He kept enough to retire in his 30s. I slowly sold most of mine off during the surge of 2017. I am Team HODL for what I still have. Yes. 8 Bitcoin spent on the Silk Road, all for the novelty of buying drugs on the internet. My kid and my nephew were both born in fall of 2020. I thought it would be cool to buy each of them 100 Bitcoin and let it ride until they graduate high school. I kept trying to figure out how to buy without using some sketchy site. So I eventually gave up. Although knowing me, I would have sold it way early. Bitcoin was over $10,000 in fall 2020. So were you trying to buy them $1 million in Bitcoin each, or you were trying to buy $100 worth of Bitcoin? Fuck. I mistyped. My kid was born in 2010. Was in social forum around that time that had a subspace for investing discussion, and a guy was offering to sell them for $25 each. Laughed him off the website. I traded around $30 worth for ammo back in 2012. Better times. My little brother mined like 4 back in 2009. Lost the thumb drive a few years later. This should close the subject. I constantly bought weed with Bitcoin while in Sweden back in early 2010s. Silk Road was the only way where I was. The 10,000 BTC pizza transaction was in 2010, so you probably are off by a year or two. Oof. Yay, you say it's retirement money, which it would be. But the nerve you'd need to have to hold on to that for so long before it developed its track record for longevity that it has now. Lol, bought $600, put it on a poker site. I mined 50 Bitcoin on a laptop in about 20 minutes back in the day after hearing about it on 4chan and wanting to try it out. Formatted the hard drive and gave the laptop away to a friend who needed one. 2005. Put 50% of my wealth in Netflix. I felt so smart when it doubled and I sold, in 2006. Yeah. I remember telling my parents they should buy shares when it was around $80. Narrator's voice: they did not buy any shares. I told my dad to buy into Facebook shortly after their IPO. He said, "Why would I invest in a company that doesn't sell anything?" The creepy part is that would have been when we were all naive and didn't realize that we are the product they sell. I bought it for $50 per share, and was thinking I myself stopped using Facebook, so I sold a portion at $150 and bought in Snap, Facebook for the new generation, to me, sold it at minus 70%. I'm glad I didn't sell all FB now Meta. I still don't know Meta much. Oh. I wanted to buy Google back then as I loved Google, but it was too expensive back then, I thought. Similar stories for some semiconductor stocks when I had a limited amount to invest in back then. Ouch. Never sell it all. Keep some house money and play. False. I bought a ton of Gazprom in February of 2022 when the ruble cratered.
I sold half a few hours later at a hefty profit.
The other half stopped trading the next day.
Since then I have spent time, money, and frustration trying to get a hefty dividend, trying to get the ADRs converted to local shares, trying to get out of the position.
It mocks me from the brokerage account.
Sometimes you sell it all. Probably doesn't apply to high-quality F500 US-based stocks.
I read a cord-cutting trend article that referenced Netflix. Put a healthy amount into the stock and went X5. One of the few I didn't bungle. I took profit the whole ride up. Sorry for your loss. I mean, it's never a bad idea in the moment to take your gains.
It could have folded up, man shrugging, medium light skin tone.
I got memmed by Smile Direct Club and Jumia.
Bought both for nearly pennies and didn't sell because they were going higher.
I think Jumia got near 60.00 a share, but did I sell? Nope.
Now I'm sitting on a lot of 5 to 6.00 shares. Lol.
I'm in it now for better or worse tears of joy. $10,000 in NVDA at average price of $178. Sold at $224. 250 shares of AMD at $2.
Sold it for around the same price because I was a poor idiot.
I did about the same. I had 6 shares of AMD at like 14 each, sold them for like 15, kept 2. I used them to buy another NVDA share though, so not all bad, but now my portfolio is less diversified in the semiconductor market and AMD is $200 a share. Too expensive, and considering I bought them for way cheaper, I'm just not that inclined to buy more anytime soon. Unless they split and they are around 50 plus. 100 of AMD at 15. Hit 45 in short order. Dropped to 30 even quicker. Panicked and sold and was satisfied with my 2x.
Those same shares would be worth approximately $18K today.
I'm unreasonably upset with you. I'm extraordinarily upset with myself. Similar buy-in price, but I sold at like $350. Was only 17 shares, so it was a nice little cash-in. I bought in 2016, still have most of it. Don't want gloat though, tears of joy. 40 shares of NVDA at $129. Sold at $147 because everyone said it was going to go down to around $100. Rip me too. Oof. I remember doing a high school report on NVDA when it was $40 to $50. Sucks I didn't buy any. I sold NVDA at a loss years ago for the tax credit.
Did buy back a few later in 2021 and have done well.
But could have been much weller. Darn.
Summer 2022 by chance. Same AVG price.
427% gain end of day today. I nervously bought NVDA, sold with a 100% gain, and it immediately went up another 200%. In reality, the money wasn't so large that I should have been that nervous about it. But damn.
Got assigned $2 million of NVDA on margin last August at $495.
Sold it for a small profit.
Disguised face.
A friend of mine spent 20 Bitcoin on a pizza and some jeans. I think this one takes the cake. Wow. I feel physically ill for you, friend. I hope they still have the jeans. He tries not to think about it. I like to make sure he thinks about it.
I think they belong in a glass case.
$140 million jeans, ADA in Oompa Loompa pesos. Check your math.
Bought FB at the IPO, sold it for a 20% gain.
Owned Apple with a $17 average share price in 2011. Sold it to pay for community college in 2013. I don't even want to know what those shares would be worth after numerous splits. Using where AAPL is now as a guide. Roughly $38,528 a share if I did my math correctly, for all the times it split. I told you I didn't want to know. Would have been a millionaire if I hadn't gone to college. Great way of putting it. I'm only seeing 28-to-1 split since then, which would make it like 4,500 a share.
Sold my entire GME position about a month before famous event.
I was content to have gotten out while still in the positive. I would have never guessed what was about to happen. The feeling was best described as,
ah, well, fuck me.
I'm with you but on the opposite end. I built up a GME position in options and shares. Watched it go over $1 million the day it started to explode.
Then they shut off trading and watched it disappear.
Not a day goes by when I don't think about seeing $1 million wiped out of my account when they halted trading.
Missing out on Bitcoin comes with impressive numbers, but your uncanny bad timing is more impressive. I bought GME in 2020 just to get a small gain from the new console generation.
Sold it in like the fall, only a few months before the boom.
Bought Ethereum in 2016 because I figured it would be the next big thing as Bitcoin was already gaining traction. I was under 18 so I got my brother to buy. We had about 10 coins altogether.
Bought the first several around $150 and added more around $225.
Back then Coinbase allowed you to purchase Ethereum as a Canadian, but we figured out we couldn't sell it.
They didn't implement that feature for quite some time. Held it for a long time. Then Coinbase still didn't allow us to sell it, so we anted to move the coins to a different platform. We figured out something called CoinSquare, so we wanted to move it there.
I can't remember exactly why, but we couldn't transfer direct to them. We had to go to another exchange, Quadriga CX, Canada's largest crypto exchange, at the time, then hold for a couple days, and then move to CoinSquare. Lo and behold, the 3 to 4 days it was transferred to Quadriga CX, the site shut down. All assets gone. Huge cryptocurrency Ponzi scheme.
We had no idea what happened. Pened for months. It shut down in 2019.
CEO was spending all the money and, mysteriously died, on a foreign vacation.
We lost all of the Ethereum.
Biggest crypto scam in Canadian history, and we happened to get in 3 to 4 days before the blowup.
Several months later, Coinbase adds sell option for Canadians. We still haven't gotten reimbursed. We got a couple dollars. We are supposed to get 13% of it back from the lawsuit, but it hasn't happened yet. Ouch. I lost 0.05 BTC to that cotton bastard.
This was part of 3 FOMO fails as a new investor. 1. Bought BTC in the 2017 hype peak, watched it drop, then got scammed.
2.
Bought a tiny pharma company after a big run-up due to good news, only to watch it flounder.
3.
Bought into a bunch of high-growth software companies after a several-year bull run to provide exit liquidity for everyone else.
Good times. AMC. Got out net zero, not factoring in taxes, short-term cap gains, long-term loss.
Bed Bath & Beyond. First time selling cash-secured puts.
Held until zero cause had hope it might recover, it didn't.
Castor Maritime, cough.
Cost average down and shouldn't have.
It's been like 2 mergers and still under $1.
The BVPS is quite large.
But the CEO takes his own something like 15% of every transaction, and the guy bought and is now selling his ships. So for him.
Nothing for the shareholder.
RS.
Also big lots. This one is honest. I didn't realize how bad the stores got since I loved them a decade ago, in another state.
So, I did do the hype train thing a few times.
Many times. Ha ha. Some similar stories to yours. Lol, some lessons are hard to learn. Removed. Your comment was automatically removed because it looks like you are trying to post about non-mainstream cryptocurrency. This type of content belongs in another subreddit. I am a bot, and this action was performed automatically. Please, contact the moderators of this subreddit. Message, compose, to =r, investing, if you have any questions or concerns. Bought Goog on the day of the IPO.
I think I got 96s for 200 shares.
I sold somewhere around 98 within 24 hours. Gotta ring that cash register. Face vomiting.
IIRC a few months later, or maybe it was a year, they were trading at $85.
I could not understand why people weren't grabbing it with both hands. I was broke, so it didn't make any difference to me. Played a day trade options on SMCI last month. Bought at 5.5, sold at 7.21. 100 options.
55K at risk.
Immediately sold at 7.21 with $17,100 profit within the minute. The option though went as high as 97 by midday. So that 55K would have been $915,000. In a day. I made $17,000 though within a minute. A win is a win. But it was bittersweet. Damn. That's a rough one.
Had a friend get a YouTube t-shirt for just uploading a video in 2008 or so, didn't invest.
I worked for Tesla in 2012, didn't invest.
Visited TSMC in Taiwan in 2013. Got some really slick swag, didn't invest.
Even got insider info from my friend's uncle who worked there that their chips were going in the next model of iPhone, still didn't invest. Watched Nvidia built their new HQ in Santa Clara in 2018 during my lunchtime walks, didn't invest. Makes me die inside a little every time. Knowing I could have retired by now if I watched the writing on the wall a bit closer.
Sir, you get a Forrest Gump badge.
Forrest Gump was smart enough to invest. Funny enough, I am just now realizing it's a reference to the Apple investment in Forrest Gump. Another fun story is I called my grandpa for homework help in 2003 and he told me to Google it. He had to spell the website for me. I could be multi-millionaire if I wasn't messing around in middle school.
The same grandpa also had one of the first model of Apple computers. I don't know if he ever invested in Apple law.
I just meant how he was a part of everything that happened in the US at the time. Smiley face. Lol. I do okay financially nowadays and hindsight is always 20/20.
I also graduated high school circa 2010, so I wouldn't have had much money to throw at any of these, but heck, even a couple grand into any of these would have been very nice. But thank you for the Forrest Gump comment. I've always been more of a jack of all trades than a master of one.
I am also from the Bay Area, so I've been lucky enough to see some of the signs early. What other companies have you recently crossed paths with? Furiously taking notes, thinking face.
So, what have you not invested in recently?
Anything besides total market ETFs.
If I had to gamble right now though, I would see if Rivian catches on.
I also have never read a balance sheet in my life and just have no idea in general. I don't want your recommendations, I want to know what you saw recently that you think is meaningless.
That's obviously where the money is.
Just teasing. I've missed out on nearly as many big breaks as you. Though I've caught a couple as well.
Hope you've had some luck.
The only stock I read the writing on the wall each year was Apple.
So even though I never splurged on their products myself initially, seeing iPods, then iPhones, then iPads, then Macs, then AirPods all around me being used by everyone, I kept investing my IRA in it.
I don't see the writing on the wall with much else these days except Robinhood. That YouTube t-shirt swag was meaningless.
Don't kick yourself about it because that wasn't an indicator of anything.
Neither was the Nvidia constructing a new building. It's like reading tea leaves. Even with your uncle's tip, you never know. You may have avoided insider accusations or cost your uncle his job.
Some things happen for good reason, although we will never know what we avoided and what could have resulted otherwise. I only seriously considered TSMC at the time, but I needed the cash to live at that point.
Working at Tesla honestly made me question what they were doing. I worked at the NUMMI plant and they just seemed super grassroots and messy. Just like random dudes with laptops in random areas of the building diagnosing cars. I wonder how much of that plant they utilize now. When I was there, they only had actual manufacturing facilities in part of the building.
Sir, next time you get some info like this, please tell me.
Also, what company are you working at now? 'Cause Tesla alum.
What you been seeing lately?
Approximately 20 years ago, I put $1,000 into MCOM. Rode it to $10,000 and then back to $0.
The current MCOM is a completely different company.
For everyone here sharing a story about FB,
Amazon, NVDA, or Bitcoin, there are probably 90 stories like yours.
I'm so happy it only cost me $1,000 of non-paper money.
If one more person learns from my experience, I'll be happy. You mean 90,000?
LLY at 180. Sigh, it still hurts in the feels. Invested my entire IRA in Chipotle at around $340 a share in 2017. Couldn't stomach potentially losing it and sold at a loss. Would be 8x today.
Same man same, was it BC of the E. coli breakout?
Haha yep.
Good idea, bad execution.
Live and learn I guess. Well hey, good news. Shares are about to be $60 here soon. I experienced the AUG in Denver before McDonald's bought them. In the year of the EPO, I had a limit order for 1,000 shares at $40 when it was $41. Never triggered and I wasn't going to chase it up. Now $3 million. I have a decent amount of money, but that would have been something special.
Not exactly the brief, but my biggest investment regret is sitting on company stock options I exercised at $15. Saw it hit over $100 and rode it all the way down to $3 thinking, it'll go back up melting face.
I wish someone would have kicked me. I should have set a limit order at $15 to at least not lose the money I put into it.
Expensive lesson learned.
My dad talked me out of AAPL at 5. Oof.
NVDA at $42. https://ibb.co/arstkeys3 .
Damn bro, still got the SS and everything rip.
Bought Shopify at $80 and the hit piece scared me. Had MSFT at $65, got scared and sold.
NVDA got in $110, sold half at $250 and rest at $350. 10 BTC at $113, sold for $118. Nvidia. 20K shares at 3. Sold them at 6. 25 years ago.
5 splits later.
They'd be worth 500 million-ish. All these replies tells me it's so hard to hold something for decades, even an index fund like VTI.
Warren Buffett has balls of steel that or he just didn't need the dollar.
We likely all needed the dollar or it mattered enough to us to sell. This is 100% true. I was involved in Bitcoin ages ago with some other dorky young men.
The only one of us that actually got rich, greater than 100K, is someone that literally forgot about it entirely until he saw on the news they were worth $1,000. First Bitcoin spike essentially, as the 1 to 100 wasn't that mainstream. They liquidated everything but still made a bundle even at that price.
Bought a house at least. Virtually no one holds when it's real money, and greater than 90% of their net worth, for the SA.
Me reason you aren't, right now, greater than 90% invested in NVIDIA or whatever.
Ouch. Chipotle. Had shares back when they suffered the E. coli scandal. Believe shares were around $250 to $300 at that time. Sold for a loss and look at it now. I feel you. I bought at the IPO and sold some here and there, but didn't make anything close to what I would have. I moved to PR in part for an adventure and another part because all capital gains are taxed at 0%.
The house I rented the first 3 years was a massive 5-bedroom, 5-bath, 3-car garage, 5,000 square foot castle on the hillside overlooking the ocean in Vieques.
On a clear day you could even see the US and Virgin Islands off on the horizon as you were washing dishes in the kitchen. I say castle because it literally had a Rapunzel tower that gave access to each of the 5 different floors. He rented this place was $5,000 a month and I split it with my business partner and our business took the remaining third since we turned on floor into our office. We were living like kings for pretty cheap,
and when COVID hit we were locked up in this massive property with a pool, hot tub, and amazing views.
So life wasn't so bad, all things considered. The owner of the house, a local Puerto Rican, told us she would never ever sell it because her dad built it himself and because he was a CEO in a big hurricane window company. All of the 50 windows were purchased below cost. She told us you couldn't build the house today for less than $1.2 million, and that was the price she would sell it if she ever considered parting with the family property. The housing market in PR isn't like stateside, and the whole market has been underwater since the 2008 crisis. This home still had yet to hit the $1.2 million watermark her dad built it for back in 2005-ish. Too bad our rental attorney didn't write a first right of refusal to buy in our contract, because what transpired turned out to be my biggest financial mistake ever. I'm 42, so I haven't had that many. So COVID hits and everyone from the States starts moving down to PR for the weather and tax savings and to start a new adventure amid the great COVID reset. Rental rates that were $5,000 a month go to $10,000 a month, and tiny places that were only $2,000 a month suddenly become as much as the entire rent in our 5-story mansion. The owner had casually offered her house to me or my business partner for $1.2 million, but nothing was in writing and I thought she would never sell it anyways. So I was shocked in late 2020 when she said she was getting it appraised. Not shockingly, the appraisal came back at $1.6 million, and my realtor friend was telling me it was still a great price. Now at the time I wasn't yet married, and since I lived in this house for a few years, I knew all the crazy issues it had. I won't get into them here, but since the house was a 5-story home built with solid concrete on a hillside, repairing these plumbing and electrical issues wasn't something I wanted to tackle. Plus, I couldn't swallow buying a house for $1.6 million when I had just been offered it for $1.2 million a few months earlier. It felt like the bubble was inflating and the end of COVID seemed near, and honestly having a ton of capital invested in the Wild West that is Puerto Rico didn't sit well with me. So for the next 8 months we see all these potential buyers citing to look at the house. It finally sells for $1.5 million I believe, and the new owner is super cool and lets us finish out the year. I think it sold in Sept, and we eventually moved out during Thanksgiving and got $5,000 back for the month of DEC so he could move in for Christmas. I wind up becoming good friends with the buyer and he hosts events at his house all the time. He winds up adding a solar field to the hillside, converts some of the non-act storage rooms into livable spaces, adds a brewing room, etc., and all in all puts about $400,000 in renovations. He is now in for about $1.9 million. Just for shits and giggles, he puts the house up for sale in a "make me move" kind of situation for $3.2 million. The house doesn't sell for a good year or more, and I'm thinking his house is probably worth close to that now with all the other big homes inflating too, but I try not to think about it. This Jan, 2 years after I could have bought the house for $1.2 million, I hear from him that he has a contract on the house and he will probably be moving. The sale price, $3.7 million. I couldn't believe it. So in 2 years, my friend made $1.8 million on a home he bought, lived in, and sold all within 2 years. If I had bought it for $1.20 and did the same renovations, I could have made $2.1 million. And it all would have been 100% tax-free, money in the bank. I still feel like my reasons for not buying it to begin with are sound and everything is obvious with hindsight being 20/20, but it still stings quite a bit. I could be completely retired at 42 and just focus 100% on my family and having a great lifestyle, but the hustle remains. Luckily I bought a shit ton of Nvidia in 2017 when it was $27 a share. Did the same with AMD for $14 a share. Still own both positions. Sorry for the long post, but I just wanted to give you a reason for that second pour of scotch. Tears of joy. Supermicro Computers, SMCI. Bought at 260-ish, held it for 6 months, was happy with my profit at 318, so I sold,
8th of January this year.
1 week later the unimaginable happened, and by a few weeks it reached $1,150 upside down face. That's life, ha ha ha.
I took profits at $80 to free up funds.
Person facepalming light skin tone. I knew you couldn't lose with the Google IPO. I needed that money for college though.
As the saying goes, the richest people are the unalive because they are, to this day, still hodling. Sold TSLA at $242 in 2019, only about $1,400 worth of it, but all my shares, when I was purchasing my first home and needed to get cash together for 20% down. Not a massive loss in the scheme of things, but would have been nice to still be holding onto that. If someone smarter than me can run these numbers, accounting for the splits, and let me know what it'd be worth today, please do.
Hurt me. $242 divided by 15 equals $16 a share. $1,400 would be 87 shares after the split x $170 equals $14,790. At its peak in 2021 it would have been worth about $35,000. Suck me sideways. Look at it this way though. With the money going towards a 20% down payment, you saved tens of thousands of dollars in not needing PMI on the loan. Your property has also appreciated too, so the money isn't gone by any means. Smiley face. Yep, I sold all mine around the same time. That's lame. I bought Tesla around $100 maybe 8-ish years ago. Sold all $10,000 of it at a slight loss. Yuck. I had read an article on SpaceX and really believed in Elon, so bought the closest thing to it I could, but lost faith in it since it wasn't the thing that I believed in initially. Oh well. Bought NVDA at $470 and sold at $490 LMAO.